Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28. 27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18.
17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.
2.
1. It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up. Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. And I'll tell you what, I thought we weren't going to have a show there about 8:58. I had nobody backstage, and it looks like everybody sort of popped in there, so we might be able to salvage this show. And then I had Ed. It was going to be the Ed and John show, which I'm sure we'd have like stuff to talk about for like 10 minutes. But hey, it looks like we do have Paul Ogden backstage. That's good. And our normal group, and Tiffany's sporting a ball cap. I know you can't wait to see this. But hey, let's do a little show intro here. So I got people coming on. Hey, we talked about the election last week, and here in Marion County, it was pretty much Republicans didn't do so well. So what's the future of Republican Party? And Paul Ogden, he's been in the political scene for quite a while, and I know that Paul was somebody that actually came to witness the trial that we had when we were trying to get our signatures to get on the ballot for mayor. So I've met him a couple times, but don't know him real well. But I know that he's a guy that has opinions about politics. So, and we might even get in. He might even be able to give us opinion on the Libertarian Party. Little Lucy will be happy to hear that. So, without any other talking here of mine, I'm going to bring Paul on here, and let's see if he's. Paul, can you hear me?
I can hear you, John. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, this is good. So
your intro, you said I've been around for a long time. That means I'm old, right?
Yeah, well, I got the same gray that you got. So, man, it's
okay,
just,
all right. Gotcha.
You'd think this, I've been around this long, you'd think I'd be smarter than this, but not really. So, Paul, this is our time to talk about, the races have been run and the winners have won. And I think today they had, the day where you do your little thing down at the State House, whatever that organizational day or something like that. And you get sworn in and all that. I didn't get to do that, but it would have been fun. So anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul, and a little background, and then we'll get the panel on here and we'll start getting some questions going. So we got some interesting stuff you're going to see tonight.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I've been involved in politics a long time. And in 1980, I cast my first ballot for Ronald Reagan, and it's been all downhill since then. In college, I interned in the Indiana State Senate, worked 2 other sessions in there. I ended up graduating and going to law school, became a lawyer. Been a lawyer for quite a number of years. Not really, I don't have really an active practice anymore. Kind of got burnt out on it, and also been involved in politics. I worked as a Republican committeeman, then a ward chairman. I've been president of the Pike Township GOP Club back when there were Republicans actually in Pike Township, and I have run for office. I ran for county clerk. Let me start back up. Ran for the House in 2000. Won my primary, highly contested primary. But you know what you win when you win a primary? Absolutely nothing. You got to actually win the general election, or it just doesn't matter. And then 2002, I ran for clerk, and then later I ran for judge, and I'm 0 for 3, so I think I'm out. So
And now, is that in Marion County?
they were all Marion County, correct?
Okay, what district back in those days? Because that's 2 redistrictings ago.
Well, House District 94 was mostly Pike Township, the northern part of Wayne. Some of the east would be the western part of Washington Township. That district no longer exists. It was a district that turned from Republican to Democrat right around the turn of the century, or around 2000. We were trying to win it back. Near the end of the race, they did some polling, and they weren't funding my race, but they said, "Oh my gosh, you're in the most competitive race in the state of Indiana," which is good to hear. I had to be honest, I didn't quite believe it, but I said, "Sure, I am." The trouble is, though, they target you or target your opponent, you also lose control of the campaign. So we had a lot of nasty mailings that went out that they said, "Oh, you need to do this to win." Well, we did it and we didn't win. And I kind of regret some of those, but you learn that through politics. Sometimes it's better to use
So who did you lose to? Are they still
a guy named Jeb Barden, who's still around?
He's my trustee now. He's actually a pretty nice guy. So
he was a great guy, and so, which is why I kind of regret some of this literature went out. It wasn't under my signature, but it was under the House Republicans. Jeb Barden moved from Pike Township to Wayne Township. He represented a district down there. They did redistricting and bumped him, and so he switched districts, and then he ran for trustee, I guess. I'm not quite sure of his history now, but you say he's trustee now, or
he just won trustee. And in fact, I literally helped a little old lady across the street, and then gave her my literature. She called me the next day, said, "I'm getting evicted in 5 days from my trailer, and I know Jeb was going to be serving food at the firehouse." I went over and said, "Hey, can you help this little old lady out?" He had her. He gave me his personal number, had her in his office the next day, and they got her some rental assistance and moved into a new place. So I'm like, hey, that's how it's supposed to work, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't argue with that. So
in 2000, they said I ran a good race. So in 2002, I had some state legislators, Republican from Marion County, recruited me to run for county clerk. So you go through a slating process, which we could talk about tonight. And I received a phone call from a prominent Republican that said, "Well, we can't really control you, so we're not going to support you for clerk." So they endorsed somebody else, endorsed Ann Sadler for clerk. I ran against her in the primary anyway, which of course you're free to do. I did not succeed. I got about 35% of the vote, but that is not enough to win.
It's a club and you ain't in it.
It's a club and I'm not in it. So
okay.
Anyway, so it's been a tough slog. So Marion County politics is tough business.
Well, and it's getting tougher. So I think this is the right. Now, Leon Dixon suggested to have you on the show, which I proceeded to ask. And I know you're friends with Mark Small, who is a regular on our show. He does this thing called Small Talk, and I think we're going to go ahead and play. Sometimes I'll forget to play Small Talk. We get so involved in the conversation, I forget to play it. But tonight we're going to play it, and then on the other side of this, we're going to have our panel on, and you'll get to meet our fine panel. We have a Democrat, a Libertarian, and a Republican. So, and we've been together for about 50 or 60 shows now. So we'll try to take it easy. I got to warn you, Lucy, the Libertarian, she's sometimes she may like you though. If she likes you, you're good.
All right. Well,
if she doesn't. Yeah. So let's find out. Let's listen to Mark Small Talk, and I warn you right now, I hadn't even listened to this. I just chopped it up, put it on the thing, and here we go.
I'm Mark Small. Small Talk for November 22nd, 2022. The elections we just had, first week in November, went disastrously for the Marion County Republican Party. There were no countywide offices that the Republican Party was able to get. Here's what's happened. We have one party, the Republican Party, nationwide that seems to be based upon nothing but no. The announcement that the Republican Party in the House of Representatives would bring everything to a halt to look at Hunter Biden and anybody else they could. And they're not bringing any kind of solution to any kind of problems. because nihilistic. That means annihilate. That means nothing. They don't think. They believe in no. No, we're not going to do that. And we, in this country, disagree with politicians, disagree with the whole idea. When what you propose is nothing and it's no, then that means it's a void. It's something we can't tolerate in this country. Now, what I'm trying to explain is we have two major political parties in Indiana by statute, one of which now is basically a closely held not-for-profit corporation. And what that means in this instance is that the Republican Party was set up in such a fashion that even the voters can't take it over. Can't do it. You try to, well, you can't get their bylaws. Now that's a secret thing. How's political party secret? It's something that has a right to know. We need to change some of our statutes in Indiana so people can access that information. Because what happened a few years ago was that people took over the Republican Party and they've changed the rules so nobody can take it back from them. The Republican Party was established as the progressive party. Don't like progressive politics? Well, start your own party, but don't sit there and try to say the Republican Party is this ideology. It represents white supremacists. It represents people who are racist. That's not what the Republican Party was established as or what it's been for most of its history. And let me be clear. If you want to have a racist party, then call it that. Be out front. Don't be some kind of chicken shits and say, well, we're patriots. No, you're not. If you want to call yourselves something, call yourselves what you are. In the meantime, we need to change our laws so the Republican Party or any party is not closely held and so their bylaws are open to everybody. I'm Mark Small. This is Small Talk. Peace, love, happiness, freedom. I approve of everything in this podcast because hell, I made it. Take care.
So there you go. Let's put Paul out here. So yeah, Mark, he quite often comments about the structure of the Republican Party, and I think that you could probably find people in both parties that really don't like the two-party system. But if you don't belong to one, then you'll get run over by the other type of thing. So Paul, do you have any thoughts or comments about Mr. Small, his take on the party?
Well, I know Mark wants to take the Republican Party back to Lincoln, which I guess there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, but I'd like to take it back to Reagan and his principles, what he stood for. And I think that we need to have candidates out there, Republican candidates, who you want to have a beer with, not throwing around insults. And I just personally hate that kind of politics. And I think it really turns off people. And I think the last election certainly turned off enough to lose a lot of races. For example, down in Arizona with Carrie Lake, if she just moderated her tone some, if she would just, a little bit nicer, she would have won that race. So
it came off a little edgy, and it is interesting how the politics have come down, especially in Marion County, how it's basically a 2-to-1 Democrat to Republican. So we'll save that for our panel, but let's get our panel introduced here. I'm going to start with Tiffany. I don't know why Tiffany's on the bottom. I'm supposed to be down there. We got to put our star up there where she belongs. Tiffany, how are you doing tonight? I see you're sporting the Indy baseball cap tonight.
Yeah, I'm getting over the flu. Been home for a while. My hot water heater went out. I just got a new one today. It's tankless. She's sexy. I'm going to take a picture with it and tell people so people understand why they're not getting Christmas gifts. I got a new water heater. So come by. You're welcome to come by and have some hot water with me. It's
Can't
really
afford
nice.
any tea, but we can have hot water. I got you. I feel that. So
Yeah.
Ed, how is the snow going up in Ogden? Is it snowy up there?
Snow is wonderful.
How much?
I am cold. I am just permanently cold. And so, yes. So just to lay it out, we went to the Notre Dame game, and within a matter of 5 minutes, that field went from green and everything looks great to covered in white. And my daughter said she was cold. She wanted grandma to take her home. They left. My son was like, Dad, we're men. We hang out in this. They hadn't even left the stadium, and when that blizzard hit, and my son was like, yeah, okay, that's over, we're leaving. So yeah, it's been one of those kind of weeks.
Yeah. So who won the game? Was it Boston College?
Notre Dame, 44-0. Yep.
Wow, it was a close one too. Yeah. The other people were scared of the blizzard as well. So Lucy, what I see you didn't even change your banner from last week because
I didn't. Can you hear me today?
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll tell you, folks, this show was on tape and string before it started. But here, look at us go. We got our guest, we got our panel. So Lucy, what are you up to?
Well, first of all, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Mouthwash GOP Shill Show event. I hope there will be no Cheeto Jesus worshiping tonight. In fact, I'll make sure of it. And Paul, I'm a fan of yours. We're friends on Facebook. I've liked plenty of your posts, so hopefully you'll.
Oh, you're going to be off the hook tonight, Paul.
I guess I'm off the hook.
Yeah, maybe Ed will get you. He's a mean Democrat from South Bend that's cold and angry about snow. So he just mentioned Spirit Airlines. He'll be all over you.
He's cold on the inside.
Yeah, he's like a heat miser. So hey, let's I don't know if you want to. I got a lot of stuff tonight. I mean, as far as let's see, I got this overlay, and we're going to talk about, we want to talk about the party in Marion County, and so I'm going to start with my survey here. I'm going to put this over the top here, so we'll look at that. So I did this survey on People Over Politics, and I'll put up the information if you want to join this on Facebook. We got about 900 people that are on there. In this particular poll, about 65 people voted. And the question was, the Republican Party in Marion County is, and you can see the results there. And it looks like 0, the one that sticks out to me is doing just fine, is no bueno. So, and the other ones sort of speak for themselves. So you could vote for more than one on this. I don't know how the percentages break down, but it looks like needs new leadership and a new direction and dead not coming back are those things. So let's start out our questioning with that, and we'll start with Tiffany on top since she's, she might fade due to the flu. She might have to go early, so we'll get you up there first. So, what kind of questions or comments?
Thank you for that. So based on the survey and this conversation about Marion County, do you think a Republican mayor could turn it around?
That's to you, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know nobody wants to answer that. That's like asking somebody to run. It's like,
no, I have to be quite honest. We'll probably see a Republican mayor of Fishers and Carmel before we see another mayor of Indianapolis. A Republican mayor of Indianapolis. We'll probably see a Democratic mayor of Fishers and Carmel before we see a Republican mayor of Indianapolis again. In fact, I mean, Democrats might elect a Fishers and Carmel mayor next time. Their numbers are getting real close. But we had a Republican mayor. We had Greg Ballard not that long ago, and he did nothing to build the party. And I think that's part of the problem. He served 2 terms. He could have really helped put the party back together, and he did not do that.
I think he was totally exhausted after 2 terms. That's sort of the take I got from him, and I didn't think he just wore him out. So
I think there's a couple things, and being older, I know a little bit about the history of the Marion County Republican Party. This is not the first time Republican Party has been down. In previous years, 40s, 50s, 60s, not that I personally remember that, but I remember the history. I've read the history. we've had Democrats take over. And what has happened in the past is there's some structural changes that people should know about. We used to have precinct committeemen elected every 2 years, and they would go 2 months later and vote for the county chairman. Only elected precinct committeemen were voting for county chairman. So whenever leadership was failing in the Republican Party in Marion County, you could vote them out by running a slate of precinct committeemen. They had, starting in the, I believe, 1990s, they changed it was actually by statute. They changed the statute, later made it by court rule, and instead of giving them 2-year terms, they gave them 4-year terms, and they put the election of the county chairman like 3.5 years after the election of the committeeman. Well, what happens in that time? You have a lot of resignations, and then you have appointees, and the appointment, the people who are appointed committeemen could vote for county chairman. So that you have a whole slew of vacancies, especially in 3.5 years, but a slew of vacancies where the county chairman is picking his or her own precinct committeeman to vote on his election or her election. So we are not able to renew the party anymore. And that is a major problem. And people don't know the history, but if we went back to that type of system, we could say we need new leadership. We could run new committeemen and get rid of that person. But now it's very difficult to do.
Yeah, almost like two foxes guarding the hen house a little bit. And I am elected PC, and I don't even know what we do with PCs anymore. It's just basically vote on stuff. But you're right. There was a ton of appointed people that all they did was go vote, and then you never see them again. And I think people get discouraged because of that. So that's a very good point. And that's why we have you on this show, because I know you've been around these things and you've seen what's come and what has gone, and possibly what could help, or where are we? So before I get to Ed, I'm going to put up another one. Now,
I was going to say the late, great Rex Early, God rest his soul, he just passed away last week. He had a term for those committeemen who were appointed as opposed to elected. He called them mummy dummies. They were
mummy. I think I remember that.
Appointed to go vote a certain way. And we looked at the numbers. Only about 10% of the committeemen in Marion County are elected. And as you get further, especially after you get further away from the election of the committeemen, it drops. So 90% are appointed.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people.
Democratic side, I think it's similar numbers.
And I think it's easy to get discouraged. So here I'm going to put this up here, and I'll give you this. This is I put there was a discussion going on, and Wildstyle da producer is Wildstyle Pascal. He's in the Black community. He's an interesting guy. He's out and about, and I don't know if anybody knows him, but what's that? Probably
he's in the Black community.
Yeah, he's in the Black community. I don't know where it is, but no, he just got his ear to the ground of the Black community. Not your Black community up in Hamilton County, Tiffany. The one more like in the hood type of thing, I guess. My neighbors to the north, possibly.
He's a man about the city.
He's a man about the city. He's actually he's a very interesting guy. But so we have this conversation going. I said, do you think a Republican has zero chance in Marion County? Because we were talking about this Reverend Jackson that has he's running as a Republican, and but he's not mainstream Republican. And Wildstyle was talking about the base of the Black people will not vote for him because of this or that. And I said, well, is it because he's a Republican? And this is what he said about the Republican having a chance. He's got zero chance. And I don't know. This is my question in here, and I put this up for a reason. Republican, are Republicans willing to support progressive Democrats in big numbers? Or is it just Democrats? So I put that up there. And Paul, we'll let you have a swing at it first, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think the problem is the Republican Party in Marion County is just an echo of the Democratic Party. And I think there is a lane there. And that lane is to be more of and I hate to say it in this era because sometimes it gets misconstrued, more of a populist party, stand up for the taxpayers. And if you look at the tax increases that are passed, if you look at the bond issues that are floated, if you look at the TIFs, they get unanimous support in Marion County, almost always. And you have a situation where I think if you had someone come out strong and say, hey, let's say no to corporate welfare, and I think that's a key phrase, corporate welfare. We have so much corporate welfare in Marion County, but we can't get candidates to oppose that on the local level. They're getting a lot of their funds, their campaign funds are coming from people doing business with the city. But I think you had someone come out strong with a different message about corporate welfare. We need to get back to standing for taxpayers, because I think there's a lane there. Whether it's a big enough lane, probably not now, because I think you're going to have to do a lot of structural rebuilding of the Republican Party to get there. But that would get you more votes, I think. Instead, we didn't have that. We didn't have that last time. We had a Republican candidate who was just saying pretty much the same thing as the Democrats, but I'll just do it better. So
yeah, and that a man of the people is what I sort of hear. Somebody that's actually, or a woman of the people that's actually out there with that. And and the Democrats, they have a little bit of a challenge with Robin Shackelford going against the Hogsett, and that was also in my conversation with Wildstyle about that, and he seemed to think that she was more of a woman of the people. And I've met her a few times, and I feel that she seems like a pretty decent person. So in it for the right reason. So Ed, speaking of
question, wait a minute, John, what did he say about about people in Marion County supporting the gentleman who's running as a Republican?
Well, because he was, I don't know if he's apostolic or what his religious affiliation was, but it was pertaining to that, that, there is a divide in that, you got your Reverend Charles Harrison type people. And I would say maybe he's going to be in sort of that category of, a minister that is, going to go with that apostolic viewpoint, or evangelistic, or, those type of things, Pentecostal type of viewpoint. And there's a lot of folks that say, hey, there's no room for this religion in our politics in that regard. And it almost seemed like, hey, he's not a man of the people, as Paul said. You need somebody that's going to get these corporate people out of the way, or act like you're somebody that's a working class person or whatever. So that's what I think. And I wonder about Robin's chances, because, coming from the House, we've seen somebody come from the House or the Senate come and try to run for a mayor or one of those other positions, and it doesn't work well for them. So Ed, I see your wheels are turning up there. And I know you don't know a lot about Marion County politics, but what question might you be able to pose in this topic?
No, I think I know enough about Marion County to realize that there's a lot of it's a flip flop of St. Joseph County. Like when you were talking about these numbers, St. Joseph County is kind of the opposite. And to speak to what Paul was saying, I have worked with, one of my big dives into politics at precinct committee men elected, trying to get people to get out and get involved. One of the interesting things is we talk about people having voter fatigue and burnout. And one of the things we also realize is that people were really excited leading up to the election to get involved, to run for precinct committee person, but to actually continue to do that for 4 years, that they also struggled with having their life, stuff before them, because as a precinct committee person, there's not a whole lot, in front of you to do. And so I guess my question to Paul is, how do you keep people engaged? That for the most part, they're not gaining much from it. And I'm not trying to, I realize that, we all have something to gain from it. But, when you have a regular life, you have kids, you have family, how do you keep somebody engaged that is just kind of average Joe?
Excellent question. The county chairman, even when the county chairman's out of power, including Republican county chairman in Marion County, has quite a number of appointments. Those appointments should be geared towards the people who are doing the work in the party. And I say appointments are appointing the Republican member of a commission. Democrats appoint the Democratic chairman appoints the Democrat member of the commission. But there are numerous appointments where people would be interested. Someone, hey, you work as precinct committeeman, you're going to be, what position are you eligible to be or interested in being appointed to? And that's never been done. And I think that needs to be done. There needs to be a reward for committeemen. They had always said one of the rewards was to vote in slating in Marion County. Marion County has slating and endorsement process before the primary. The trouble is they have the system set up where only like 10% are the elected committeemen and 90% are appointed. And if they don't want you, as I well know, it's very easy to not get you to prevent someone from getting slated. And now I'm seeing this particularly on the Democratic side, people running against the slate, which you're allowed to do and winning. I haven't seen that as much on the Republican side, but repealing, I think there's inevitable we need to repeal slating because slating is not the tool to give committeemen power. It has been used against committeemen. They tell you, oh, you get this chance to participate and vote on who you want to support going into the primary. But in reality, that committeeman goes thinking, hey, I got to vote. Well, you got 9 people sitting around you who were appointed just to vote a certain way. The mummy dummies, as Rex Early would say.
Yeah, that, and that can get discouraging when you don't count. And I think that's part of the reason why people do just eyes glaze over and they quit. It's because they're not, not involved. They don't feel like they're involved. And honestly, some people, they just want you to go away. So, the best way to do that is ignore somebody. So Lucy, you've been very patient. Now, I would say you have some of the same woes that maybe the Marion County party has with the Libertarian Party trying to be relevant. So,
well, I grew up in Marion County. I went to Broad Ripple High School for the ballet program there, and graduated from Northwest High School on the West Side. So, this is my old stomping grounds, and there's a reason I don't live there anymore. There's a reason when I, bought a house, I bought in Hamilton County. But I would like to point out, John, that you had a glaring omission on that survey. You should have had dissolve the whole thing or burn the whole thing down. I'm very sad that when I hear people in Marion County, they're frustrated. They're good people. They want, good roads and they don't mind paying taxes for them. But all I'm seeing in Marion County is really a lot of fraud and a lot of money being pulled off. When Ballard was mayor, it wasn't any better. I mean, Ballard's the one who gave us the Park Indy system. I can remember as a teenager being able to park downtown for free on the weekends and after 6 o'clock. But now, the only purpose of having that app is so that they can more quickly determine who has expired on the parking and hightail it over there to extract more money from the citizen taxpayer's pocket. So I did what a lot of people do, and I simply withdrew my tax dollars and my money from the situation, and I got out of Dodge. What do they say? Give me the coinage in the courts and let the rabble have the rest. Let Marion County have the rest.
Yeah, well, and that unfortunately that is very much the case. And when we're out door knocking and the address on voter registration says there is a Republican that used to live here and it's empty, or it's not a Republican anymore, and I think that is definitely a thing. And while we're doing that, I would ask this question, since you didn't ask a question, Lucy, but I have my stack of mail is coming back now. Paul, these are all returned. These are supposed to be registered voters.
Mm-hmm.
And now we didn't put or current resident on this one because we wanted it to go to that person. And then, this is just some of, that's not all of them. They keep coming back. So my question is, we're going to shift this questioning to voter registration. And, really that affects both all the parties, everybody. What's your take on voter registration and why is it so outdated? Is it just because so many people move or is it just complacency? What would be the thing? And people were admiring your cat, Paul, because Mark Small generally has his cats running around. So
Lucy will appreciate that my cat's named Lucy.
Oh, that's the perfect name for a cat.
Well, I named Lucy after my mother, who's also named Lucy, but I could say it's named after you as well. So
that's amazing. What a great old-fashioned name.
He just had that saved up in case you were giving him a hard time, Lucy.
Yeah, exactly. The mail coming back. I did a piece on my blog several years ago where I looked at the number of people over 18 living in Marion County and the number of people registered, and we had like 105% registration. More people registered than people were over 18. And that's because we have inflated voter rolls, and we have people who moved, who have died. We've never developed a good system for checking people who have moved to see if they've moved to a different location, then getting them off the system. You're not allowed to use social security numbers, so that creates a problem. They try to create a numbering system. And the Democrats have always resisted purges. The law requires purges, but they make it very difficult to purge. You got to send out 2 postcards and have them come back to you. And it's unfortunate. I think that's something, and maybe I'm criticizing Ed's party a little bit, but they need to lighten up on purge. We used to purge. If you didn't vote every 2 years, you get knocked off the voter registration list. That's too short a time. No problem with that. If you haven't voted in a 4-year cycle, the odds are extremely high that you've either died or moved. And that's how we used to get rid of people from the ballot. I'd be even open to move it to 8 years or 6 years or whatever. But the Democrats fight any kind of purging. But I can tell you from experience, they have nothing to worry about. If you have not voted in 6 years, there is, less than 1% chance that person's still living there and eligible to vote. So they have nothing to worry about. We go back and forth. I think there's some overreaction on some of the voter registration things. I would point out it's easier to register than certainly when I was growing up, and maybe than it's ever been in my life. So
you can do it. You can do it on your phone. Just go on indianagov.voters.com, and and we do have the motor voter law here in Indiana, but we have a 6-year license. So, and if you recall, when part of our lawsuit on the signatures was that people had gone and got a driver's license and voter registration, either BMV dropped the ball or voter registration dropped the ball as far as updating their address. So it's automatically supposed to be updated at voter registration. And we found several cases that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And so as a candidate getting signatures, is that my fault? Or is it voter registration or whatever? But, we already know the answer is my fault, obviously.
Well, let me tell you something about signature verification. I don't know if people on here watch Forensic Files. Occasionally, they'll have an expert on there who will compare signatures. These are people who schooled, they have experience in comparing signatures. But in politics, we have people with no experience whatsoever comparing signatures to see whether they're valid. Signature verification is a joke. Plus, people's signatures change over time. I look at my voter registration card. It was like when I signed a Social Security card when I was like 15 years old. My signature looks nothing like it. Yet they've never flagged me for voting, but they could. They could.
Yeah. Well, we have Spiro Rocklianos. He's somebody in our that's in the chat here. He was volunteered to do the absentee voting. When you have to look at the signature on the ballot and then the signature on the envelope, and they're supposed to match. And he would tell us the story about, hey, this stuff didn't even come close to matching. And he called somebody over, and the Democrat that was with him wanted no part of it. No, that's a good signature. That's a good signature. And he called him over. They went and looked and they talked. And he said, "Are you going to prove this?" No. And it was sort of a big deal about, hey, this signature didn't match, but it still went on through. Hopefully I'm telling the story right, but was his frustration was, okay, well, why are we even looking at these signatures? If we find one that maybe is suspect, then nothing happens. And when I did that counting, there was a few that were like that. It's like, Okay. So it makes you wonder, like, okay. And it's not just like a little bit different. It was totally different. So, but you're right. Who's a signature expert on this? And then if you call somebody over, how are they supposed to disenfranchise somebody's vote? I mean, it just gets to be a tricky deal. So Lucy, I see you shaking your head there. Tell me what you think about that.
I think it just shows the apathy. Voters know their vote doesn't count. What did Mark Twain say? If our votes counted, we wouldn't be allowed to do it, right? So I would just like the whole charade of voting to go away. Paul, you probably know that I've run for United States Senate twice, and I ran for City County Council when I lived in Speedway back in the 90s. Voting hasn't changed. It's still ineffective. People ask you to, vote for the lesser of two evils, but they're still outright asking you to vote for evil. If people simply withdraw from the system, don't support the theater of voting, I mean, honestly, if I wasn't running for an office, I wouldn't participate at all. Our participation gives it legitimacy. So I'm calling you out of Babylon. Come out of Babylon. Come out.
All that. So Lucy, so Tiffany, what are you hearing here? I see you up there just enjoying your hot water heater and listening. But what are you taking away from this?
I was going to invite Ed. Ed, next time you're in town, you can have some hot water. It's tankless, so it just is all the time.
And it wouldn't even room temperature would be hot for him.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'll put some in an envelope and send it to you.
Nice.
So John, you asked the question. So I heard what Lucy said about everybody just participating legitimizes it, and listening to Paul talk about where the system went awry. I definitely think that there's probably a strategy for people to maybe take back the party. But Paul, if this were a war and we were getting ready to charge the hill and we had all the ammunition and all the men, what would we do to take back the party? What would we do to take back Marion County?
Well, I think eventually losing elections is going to do it. But I think it will take we'll need some money, but people running against the slate, just so that the party leadership is losing, because that in Marion County is the strength of the county chair, is to be able to win these slated races. And if they start losing them, then we might have a chance to oust the leadership. But it's tough because they've rigged the rules, so the county chair gets to pick, like I said, his or her own voters, and it's really hard to get rid of them. So I think the pressure, instead of coming from the bottom.
You said that 10 or 20%. You said that 10 or 20% of the PCs in Marion County are elected. Why don't people run?
Well, I think Ed had a good answer to that. It's hard work. It's hard work, and staying in, even if you run, staying in for 4 years is kind of that's a long period of time. And when I was precinct committeeman, we were expected to work every election, hand out literature, recruit people to work at the polls. People don't like to work at the polls.
So you can't have it both ways. You can't complain about not having control of the party and talk about wanting to change the party and then say that 4 years is too long for people to be in the fight. I mean, that's you can't be too hard to work on.
You have to understand too, Marion County has a lot of precincts where there are virtually no Republicans. And if you got 97% of the vote in a Center Township precinct, you're going to try to, when you run for precinct, you have to run from the precinct you live in, and try to find Republican precinct committee people to run from a 97% Democratic district is virtually impossible. So you're going to have a lot of vacancies.
Well, I mean, certainly there's some minority Republicans out there. I think that the thing is that if taking back the precinct committeeman role if getting more elected elected precinct committeemen, if that's the first step to changing the party, then you've got to be diligent about getting people to run for those seats, even if it is an area that's 97% Democrat, code for probably an ethnic area. Go find a conservative person to run. So the thing is that I feel like you can't get lost in the forest in the trees. I mean, if the first goal is, elected precinct committeemen, let's do that. And then if the next step is change the leadership, then you change the leadership. I think that with the races that just occurred, I don't know how many of them were close, how many of them make sense for us to continue running Republicans in some of those roles. What was the performance? Were there any races in Marion County that are winnable?
There was one. Michael Hart was like 200 votes away from winning, but they put $800,000, I believe, or $600,000 or $800,000 in Cindy Crosco, and she basically got 42% of the vote. And so if you make that kind of effort and get beat that badly, what does that say to the next guy that's going to run? I mean, do you keep going or you sit out?
I mean, so what happens? So do you give up just because you lose? Do you give up? I mean, if you firmly believe, maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish, maybe I have on the rose-colored glasses, but if you believe in what you're doing, it's like, hey, I ran, I lost, let me catch my breath. We're going to watch this guy who you elected. We're going to watch what he does. I'm going to continue to be a mouthpiece. And in 4 years, we'll see if your life is better or worse. I think of farmers. Stephen Covey talked about the law of the farm. You reap what you sow. He didn't say go out there and farm. And if you don't grow anything, then, oh, well, let's not do it again. You got to keep going. And I don't know. I don't understand the frustration. It takes time. I was in the military. It takes time to make rank. You don't walk in on the first day and you're not a general. I mean, that happens on the third day. So, so that's some of my frustration is that, it takes time to do it. Either it's important to do or it's not.
Well, some people
I want to bring up something.
Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
If you don't mind, if I hop in real quick, because Tiffany brought up a great point last week, which was, and I believe it was last week, when we were talking about being involved with the party, and people are friendly with you when they need something from you, but it's when you need something from them that suddenly that's when you kind of tell where you're at. And I think in a lot of these cases, it's easy to say run, keep running, but as you start to come to that reality of realizing that people are willing to smile as long as you're willing to fill in that crack and say that, hey, like, okay, we bumped it from 20% to 30% or 40%, but am I actually making headway here is the question. And I think that is, where you get a lot of precinct committee people who've run and for 4 years realize that, I haven't made headway here and this isn't helping. So
discouragement. Yeah.
Well, one way of changing the party, another way of changing the party, instead from the bottom up, which I think has got quite difficult, is from the top down. To have a change in leadership at the top and have them put pressure on the county chairs and to change the rules. And Marion County in many elections in recent elections has been the most Democratic county in the state. I mean, we're more Democratic than in some elections we've been than Lake County. So we have a long ways to go up on that. So
why not? Are there any conservative Democrats? I mean, is that a safe spot? I mean, if you live in Marion County and if you're married to it and you never want to leave, I mean, do you just change parties and run as a conservative Democrat?
That has certainly been suggested that I try doing that, but I'm not. I have done that. I'm not a Democrat. I've got conservative views. I don't feel as a conservative that I would fit in the Democrats. I'd love to see more conservative Democrats, certainly. I think the Democrats could make headway statewide if they maybe came across as a little more conservative, a little more moderate. But That's it's not one that I've chosen. Maybe John will choose that option. I don't know, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it would work. I think he's shaking his head no.
No,
So,
yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned put some pressure on the county party, and I before this show, I was actually on a phone call when we were talking about trying to help the party and just get some people fired up. And I sent out basically an invitation, and I had PC list from when I ran for chair. I got 25% of the vote against the current chair. And I caught a little bit of slack for that. He didn't appreciate me sending out that message. And the basically message was, hey, we need to all work together. I said, I'm tired of seeing Democrats all come together and whoop us. And they're organized. They may fight in a primary or whatever, but when they get done, they all come together. And I said, we all need to work together on this. And that message comes off as like, well, this doesn't speak for the Marion County Party. Well, I wasn't trying to speak for the Marion County Party. We're just trying to get people involved. We're trying to get them fired up. Hey, my phone works. If you got a question or an issue, whatever, you can call me. And we send messages to invite them to this meeting that we're going to have on the 16th. And no, it doesn't look like they're going to show up. They don't care. It's like, well, if I got somebody that's willing to help, I'm going to go listen to them, at least give them a shot at talking to them. And this is what's very frustrating to me is that we don't have a party that's doing that. And it seems like they want to be more divisive inside the party than say, against our opponents. So Lucy, I want to ask you a question real quick about that. As far as the spokesman, you're the spokesman for the Libertarian Party here tonight. Do you have anything like that in your party that maybe, little friction?
Well, if I have to admit it, I would say that libertarians seem to be an entire spectrum of beliefs on our own. So even if you have half a dozen libertarians in the same room, heck, on the same continent, we're going to find something to disagree about. So the major things that we do agree on would be most libertarians, not all, but nearly universally believe in the NAP, the non-aggression principle, which I express as don't start none, won't be none. But other than that, as far as the other beliefs and, from the leftist, side of it, we have very lefty libertarians that actually, well, I don't think that they're a real libertarian, right? Because I'm a very conservative libertarian. I'm a married woman with 10 kids. But we have lefty libertarians that claim that rent is theft. And then we have the ultra, capitalist libertarians like myself. In fact, I wouldn't even call myself a libertarian. If you want to get right down to it, I'm just a simple anarchist. But libertarian is the closest I can get.
We noticed that.
Yeah. There is no authority over me. And anyone that pretends to think that the virtue of my birth being inside some imaginary lines drawn on a map, absolutely insane. Why do you people keep allowing parts of your paycheck to be stolen and then used against you? You've got to understand that the only reason that politicians have power is because they've developed a system where they create money out of thin air, Federal Reserve System 1913. Then by creating this money out of thin air, they loan what they've created out of thin air back to you at interest. And not only that, but they get another group of humans, your fellow humans, who are willing to literally beat or kill you into submission. Every law is at the point of a gun and should be or death. So you get pulled over for the traffic stop because you don't have your seatbelt on and the cop doesn't like you, it can literally be or death. So when our politicians are creating these laws, remember that every law that they create can either end up in your death or the theft of your freedom, your imprisonment, literally being put in a cage. So walk away from Babylon, people. Stop having anything to do with the government as much as you can. Grow eggs and trade them for somebody that grows watermelons. But for God's sake, stop participating with evil.
Yeah, well, I feel like that the party would love that if I stopped participating. So that would
that's because you're not evil, John. You're
would
good.
Have a party. I'm sure they have a party in the party. That would how that would be going. But and it's that's sort of frustrating. You say, oh, you're not evil, you're a good guy or whatever. I say, oh, I'm not good. I'm better than I was, but I'm not good. And as the famous Milton Friedman said, where are we going to find these angels to run our government? And, I think that's whereas in the problem, you get caught up in the system and you have to either play along with the system or guess what? You're out in the street. And, if you're an appointed something, you're out. So there's a level of fear in there. So I guess back to the elephant in the county room, we look at not just the party, but we look at, the amount of voters. So in 2018, we had 80,000 less this midterm than we did in 2018. So 80,000 less voters. So say, Paul, I would only have to get 4,480 signatures instead of that 6,100 now, because it's 2% of the Secretary of State vote in Marion County. So that's a pretty astounding number that 80,000 people less voted, considering that the voter roll still stayed at like 658. In fact, they might have even registered a couple more people. So what do you think about that part about voter apathy? Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, voters turn out when there's competition, and right now there's not a lot of competition in Marion County. If there was a competitive county prosecutor race, probably you saw. I don't know if you saw, but I said that's not going to be a competitive race, and that turned out to be right. Not that she was necessarily a bad candidate. Cindy was a bad candidate. It's just the numbers are overwhelming, and you can only move the numbers so far. And she moved the numbers, 3 or 4%, 8%, but Marion County is like a 37%, 36%.
It's 2-1. It was 100,000 straight tickets to 52 straight tickets. So 100,000 Democrat straight tickets to 52 Republican straight tickets. 52,000, 100,000 to 52,000. So that's basically a 2-1 margin. And I think she did move it 7,000 votes, which. If you pee in the creek, it's not going to raise the level too much. And that's about what that ends up being.
No, and generally they pick out a race, whether it be the sheriff's race or the prosecutor's race to emphasize. But it's just not there. It's important, though, that you continue to put people on the ballot as candidates so that voters have a choice. And plus, you could have a big scandal breakout on one of the candidates on the Democratic side. So Republicans could possibly win that. But I make the example of Pike Township. When I first started working in Pike Township many years ago, it was a 2-1 Republican township. Hard to believe now. Pike Township, northwest side of Indianapolis, is now the most Democratic township in the county, Marion County. But it was 2-1 Republican. But every year the Democrats put up candidates for township office. Every year they did. And I so admire them. We just kept pounding them. And then the numbers started switching in the 90s. You saw the numbers dropping off. And then 2000 came, and then they passed us. And we've never gotten it back. But so we got a similar situation. And Republicans don't put up anybody. We don't put up anybody for this township races. We have no functioning party in Pike Township. And that's true. The only Republican townships left in Marion County are on the south side.
Yeah, Franklin Township, Decatur. Speedway's still that way. Lawrence has got a little bit.
Speedway's about 50-50 now, I think, isn't it?
It's about 45-55. It's and the problem that I see is that a lot of Republicans are older. I mean, there's older, they're older. And that's one thing the Democrats have done good is they've done well is getting the young people to vote and, getting minorities involved. And I know that the Republican Party statewide is, they got a diversity inclusion conference. I think, Tiffany, you were one of the first graduates of whatever I just made up words tonight. So what was that class you were in?
It was a diversity leadership series, much like Lugar ILF, just focused on minorities.
Yes, I got one of the words right. That's what I was shooting for. But
Republican?
I said diversity. I said that in there. I swear. Run the tape back.
You did. You did. And I love what you're saying, John. The Republican Party, especially here in Hamilton County, as we look forward to like the next set of elections, we got municipal races coming up. Carmel, let's see, Destiny Wells won Carmel, which is interesting. It's turning purple, and we've got to keep it from turning blue. And I think that Chairman Massalamani, he's doing a lot to help people understand what's going on. Like you said, John, Republicans, we're aging, so we do have to be a big tent party. Most minorities are pretty conservative. They just don't usually vote conservative. So we're working on some initiatives up here to make sure people feel comfortable participating in the Republican Party, that they feel comfortable identifying, and even more comfortable and willing to vote. That's what we're going to have to do up here to ensure that Hamilton County, Fishers, remains that place that people want it to move to. Low taxes, great schools, safe streets, safe communities, just a really great place to live. And unfortunately, when the politics change, the place can change. And so we're trying to just keep this a really great place to live.
Yeah, I do want to say something else. So I still live in Marion County. I live in Mars Hill, as many of you might know. And we had who's the FOP guy? The FOP guy put a chart of Marion County homicides in there. Rick Snyder.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, and lo and behold, I looked at the Mars Hill area, and we've had no homicides. Now we'll probably have one tonight, but I'm thinking, wow, this is really good. I think the last one we had here was like 4 summers ago. It was a 2 double homicide drug deal thing. And since then, I think we've had somebody get shot in the hand, but that didn't really count, didn't make the news. So I was like,
it's almost too cold for homicides.
What's that? Oh, it's too cold.
It's almost too cold for homicides. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, if you got lazy, I don't know. It's who knows what makes that happen. But, we're in our 3rd year of 200 homicides in Marion County. And I don't think we have to really think about too much to think, are people living here because they want to or because they have to? And I think that's one of the things that is a little bit frustrating with what's going on. But anyway, well, hey, our hour's up, and we are determined to keep this show under an hour and a half tonight. So I think this has been a good discussion. I don't know if we solved anything, but I think we did point out some things that may have to happen. But I think getting people excited to vote again, and I think there's a lot of folks who just think my vote doesn't count, and why do it? And just let them, they're going to do to me what they do. So, Paul, I'll let you have the last word, and then we're going to go to conspiracy theory. I don't know, you didn't even hear about that part of the show. That's where we put on tinfoil hats, and I know Lucy's just chomping at the bit tonight because I've already seen her preview in the that's coming out here. So you can stick around for that. You don't have to have a tinfoil hat, but hopefully all of our people do. And
well,
we just
I appreciate the invitation. I'm curious. I've been keeping an eye on Hamilton County, Tiffany, about the numbers changing there and watching that. And I know Mario, and I said, boy, you've got a challenge ahead of you to keep that Republican, because it's turning fast. And I think we need to, and I'll end where I started. I think we need to start being a party that stops insulting people and running people down. And I'm sorry, I got yet another cat who's trying to get on.
How many do you have?
Cats are famous. Cats are well liked on this show.
I take in strays. I got 4 now. So I took in Lucy. Lucy came to my door, and she was real sickly, and she's not anymore now. She's just real fat. So
hey, the better question is, do you have a John, Tiffany, or Ed in that bunch?
John? No.
Who names their kid John?
Lucy,
their cat and their
Lucy,
kid.
Ben. I named Ben after Ben Carson, but he really disappointed me. Then I had
the cat
no food for him.
Thelma and Louise. So
okay, Thelma and Louise. Don't let them have the car keys.
Thelma and Louise are sisters, and they hate each other. So that's the way it goes. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be a challenge up there, Tiffany. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully,
but I do like what you said about the mayoral race. I mean, yeah, with Brainerd retiring, it could be very interesting in Carmel with the way the voting's going. I don't know about Fishers. I don't know. I don't know if we
Fishers is slightly more Democrat. I think. I mean, less Republican, slightly. But
we'll see.
But the The way you got one thing going for you, the Hamilton County Party Democratic Party doesn't really have their act together yet. I mean, they left a number of races open last time where they might have been able to win some of the city races in Carmel and Fishers, and they had no candidates. They had no candidate for mayor. I mean, gee whiz.
Yeah, well, hey, we have 6 House of Representatives here in Marion County that had no challengers. And I know that out in the rural areas, there's no Democrat challenger for several Republicans. And I think that you hit it on the head earlier about the competition. When there's not competition, that's bad for everybody. I mean, they just get complacent and why, just think, if you didn't have anybody running against you, would you even want to go out and knock on a door? No. I mean, really? I mean, it's like, and that's what happens. They don't. They may go campaign for somebody else and try to help them out, but which I did notice that. But it's just sort of interesting. So, all right. Well, Mr. Ogden, this has been a pleasure, and
thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, you did not disappoint. We got a glimpse of the past, the present, and the future. Maybe what's that one show that they have? The
Scrooge.
The Scrooge, yeah. You're not the Scrooge or anything. Maybe the Grinch, but I don't know. You got 4 cats, so you can't be that bad a guy.
Yeah, they're all black cats too.
Oh yeah, that's good. Watch out. Well, you're still around, so they can't be that bad of luck. And I always tell this little story about me being 13 on Friday the 13th in 1974. So I can't have a black cat. Yeah, I know. That's some planning on my parents' part, by the way. Whew. So anyway, thanks a lot. And we're going to go to the conspiracy theory. So I want to put the banner up here first because I always forget to do that. We don't want anybody to think we're crazy. And then we're going to play the little brand here, and then we'll see everybody on the other side of this little bumper here. Hey, y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory, so you better get your tinfoil hat out, and let's see what's going on this week. So, Paul, if you still want to be on, I can bring you online again. Just nod your head if you want to be on. You're on now. Yeah, you didn't. I couldn't see you nod your head, so you're on. You can listen and laugh and comment on any of these. And I'm going to have to start with Lucy tonight. And Ed's, you want one gum? That you got at least 3 gums now. You can make at least a 3 gum.
That's
hat.
the only part that matters.
It's good. So Lucy, I know you're chomping at the bit for this thing. I just know you are. So go ahead. We'll let you do it.
I am chomping at the bit to share conspiracy facts, obviously, and I posted it on multiple Mouthwash threads. So the one that we're currently in here live, as well as the promo for this particular one. I invite you to go see Stu Peters, and you might remember John and Tiffany that his people were at the Red Pill Expo. So all of his media and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that those people are all part of that. Bottom line is, they came out, I think it was in the Atlantic Monthly, and said, "Oh, we should have this forgiveness because we just didn't know all the bad things." No, they knew the whole time. So what this documentary is going to show you, and this is not for the faint of heart, this is not something that you want to watch with younger children around. You will see actual cadavers, and they're not blood clots. They're pulling clot material that looks like elastic rubber bands out of people's bodies, live, like no filter, nothing. And this is all a result of the VACCINE. I don't even want to say it.
Yeah, we got one more strike on YouTube, and then we're
exactly. So go get that link. It's only an hour and 8 minutes. It's I would have loved to have been triple the length, but it's probably the most important thing that you'll watch maybe in your lifetime, definitely in the last 3 years. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what we can do to help people to be healthy from this, but the number of deaths is horrifying. The only thing that I can tell you about the documentary that you're about to watch is that it's horrifying. But it's important. So get it out to your friends. If you have a way to record it yourself, or you can buy, I don't even know if you can buy the recording or something, do that. Because Robert, you probably thought it was horrifying as well.
So that's all I got. How long has this been out? Is this brand new?
It came on today online at 5:00. So it's only
So-
been available for the last 5 hours. I immediately went and watched it. I was not disappointed. It's very well researched. There are a lot of experts on there. There are people that are actually dealing with the bodies. Yes, Liquidy. It's they've got things on there as recently as September 25th.
So what
Wow,
you're
so, I
saying is
mean-
that this documentary is about people who've died from side effects from shot?
Yes.
And-
Yes,
wow.
and it is horrifying.
So I
It is
guess
horrifying. I'm like speechless at how bad it is, and thankfully, I'm not the sort of person that is at all squeamish. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, so I got to go. One of the guys at church was a research scientist at Regan Street, which is now Eskenazi. And so when I was 10 years old, I got to go into these surgeries where they were testing out different materials for veins and arteries, and they're operating on dogs and blood spurting everywhere. And I was completely thrilled. That was freaking awesome.
You didn't drop a junior mid in one of the surgeries like they did on Seinfeld, did you? Like, that's like, yeah, I'm the same way. I was like, I would watch these knee replacements and
Oh,
stuff on
heck yeah.
Channel
Get out
20
the
while I'm eating
bone
my
saws
sandwich.
and go to town. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah,
bother
like,
me at all.
It's
I'm not
but
squeamish.
but you know what? That's one of those things. Either you can or you can't. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, it's not something for that's. There's not a lot of in between. So Ed, how can you follow up that? Oh, before we go on, I got a couple questions. So do you think did they make it sort of gory to get for the sensationalism, or do you think they just wanted to show, because anymore everything's a clickbait. How can we get somebody to
I
click
don't
on
think
this?
that there is a way to make mass murder, genocide less horrifying than it is. If anything, I believe that they held back on what they
Oh.
really could have shown. Knowing what I know and what we've seen over the last few years, it could have been much, much worse. And oh yeah, Robert, oh my gosh, my brother's been a firefighter for 30 years in Indianapolis, and the stories that he tells me are just crazy, and all of you firefighters and ER people, I respect you because you're dealing with some crazy stuff. The fact of the matter is they could have made it much worse. Now, what's funny is there's like this continuum of people that are always looking for the wrongdoing or the conspiracy theories. I'm more in the middle. Like there's a lady, I'm going to try and remember her name. It's like, and you can go look her up on YouTube. I think her name is Gina Marie Colvin, Colvin. She's in Salem, Indiana. So she's literally, in my same county. And she takes like pictures with her iPhone and finds fleets of aliens in the sun. So like, that's not something that I think is real, but she's got, I don't know, 70 or 80,000 people on YouTube that follow her. And when she goes live, man, thousands are watching her. So like, there's this continuum of naivete. I'm on the more skeptical side. I want to know the truth. I want there to be evidence of the truth. And yeah, I'm not just willing to go down those rabbit holes that don't have evidence.
So having seen this, and I haven't seen it, I'm probably gonna have to watch it now.
Yeah.
But do you think this is going to move the needle at all on things? Do you think people are going to see this
No.
and think it's just going to be
No.
either you
No,
either
the
believed
thing-
it before or you didn't, or you think this is crazy? So,
I think that's a really good summary. There are so many cognitive biases that are out there. And one of the cognitive biases is that once you participate in something, you have to defend it. And so the people that have
That is
participated,
true.
yeah, they have to defend it even more. And this is why, believe it or not, when I'm evangelizing for liberty, when I'm trying to open people's minds, I don't say the kind of sensationalist things that I say here, because this is all clickbait trying to get watchers and viewers. What I'm
No.
looking for, I know. What I'm looking for when I'm talking to
I
somebody
think I'm
is a more-
failing.
I want a more Socratic method. I want to ask people questions, and I want things to come out of them. I want it to come out of their own mouth. So the problem is all of us have lived under not just an umbrella of propaganda, but a cocoon of propaganda our entire lives. I was born in 71. I think the Department of Education was started in like 78 or 79. So by the 80s, we had outcome-based education that was specifically created and invented in order to make people amoral, to strip away the morals from people and for people to think that everything was relative. Educating for the New World Order by B.K. Eekman is a great book that details that. So my entire life has been propaganda. Tiffany, you're a bit younger than I am. Ed, don't know, but I'm telling you, and you guys have been in the, I'm not gonna put Ed on the spot. You never ask a gentleman his age. But the fact
you're
of the
going to
matter
ask
is-
Ed, aren't you?
That's funny.
I think Ed's younger than us.
I mean,
think he's
you
in the
literally
middle.
have research that shows that the refresh rate on your television set induces trance and hypnosis, and you have subliminal messages that were in I don't know if you guys stayed up late enough to see like the national anthem on TV and crap, but if you go back and you take that frame by frame, there are subliminal messages to worship the state as God. So we've been sold out for a very long time. And the problem that the globalists, the cabal, have come across is that there are so many of us and there's so few of them that it makes it very difficult to control your herd of taxpayers, right? And so in the last few years, I think it's called Malthusian. Is it Malthusian or Mathlusian? Anyway, look it up. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but they bring this up in the movie that we were taught growing up that there was a population problem, that there was an exponential increase in population, but only a linear increase in food production. And we were taught that. I mean, even Margaret Sanger said that, and I have 10 kids, so this hit me really hard. Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood, and she said that the kindest thing that you could do for a family that has as many children as I do, or more than the desirable number of children, is to kill the children. Okay, so this has been going on for a long time. So if you can reduce the size of the herd but still maintain productivity, then you can continue to glean off the energy and the labor of your debt slaves. That's why inflation is going up. That's why interest rates are going up. It's because it's a way to suck the money, to suck the productivity out of people like you and I.
Yeah,
And
well,
the
I
way
know
to
that
combat
that's-
this, I don't
yeah,
want to
there-
leave people without hope. The way to combat this in your life is to do everything you can not to use Federal Reserve notes. The way that they have power over you and the way that they get leverage in the exchange is that you only have these green pieces of paper to trade back and forth. So if instead you simply have a backyard garden, you get a couple of laying hens, you learn how to butcher chickens and grow your own, you get some rabbits for meat, maybe you start making your own gloves out of rabbit hides. I know this sounds really crazy for people that have lived a completely modern lifestyle, but think about it. The only reason that Walmart exists is because you buy things that they sell. And what did Walmart do during the pandemic? They shut down, with the help of politicians, all of your neighbors who owned alternative stores. So I'm just saying, do as much as you can for yourself and stop doing business with Babylon.
What they say, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yes,
So
and thank you for listening to my 18-minute lecture.
that's okay. You're going to get us up to the hour and a half that we always do. So I knew we'd fill it up somehow. But Ed, what do you have by chance, Ed?
So look, I got two things to say tonight. First, this one's for Paul, and as much as I love the idea that hey, I hear people on both sides say, hey, eventually our party is going to lose, and that's going to motivate people. Buffalo Bills over the weekend had to move their football game from Buffalo to Detroit because there was a snowstorm in Buffalo and there's like 6 feet of snow and they couldn't play there. And so they played in Detroit. The NFL literally has rules to force teams that stay competitive to have to spend money to try to win. We've heard rumors from coaches that say they've been given bonuses to tank so that the team could hit other motives and lose games. And one of the things that I always say is you think losing is, that it's going to motivate you to do better. But that game where Buffalo Bills played in Detroit this weekend was the first game since 2019 where the home team actually had a winning record. And for some reason, the people in Detroit keep showing up for those games, and I have no idea why. And so, yeah, I would like to think losing would change, but I've seen it enough in sports where it doesn't. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is, after all the times that I hear this, I'm going to have to say it the other way. I don't know what where Dorn is tonight, but I'm just going to say, let Dorn speak.
Yeah, let Dorn speak. Yeah, where is Dorn? I didn't see anything there.
Oh my God, did you eat him?
No, actually, I was being a very mean wife tonight, and about 3 hours ago, In order to support me, he asked for me to make him some coffee so that he could stay awake. He's had a pretty full day working today. And I said, no, you've had enough coffee. So he laid down and went to sleep. And yeah, here we are, because I'm a bad wife.
No
Oh, you're
sandwich,
not asleep?
no coffee. No. Yeah, he's like,
He's
boycotted
lurking.
the show. He's
lurking.
I missed the ban Lucy, hashtag ban Lucy, let Ed speak type of thing, and go Tiffany. So Tiffany, what do you have besides the hot water thing? I mean, you could grow hot water in your backyard probably. And
I'm so excited, and I smell so much better now too. So I have one. I am a Detroit Lions fan, and I'm so proud of them. I've always said that they are a fifth quarter team, and they're changing, and they've changed for the better. So I'm really, really proud of them. So excited about that. My conspiracy is around the Colts. So, and Mr. Jeff Saturday, who is a UNC grad, I noticed during the week that there was some chatter about, let's see, the Indianapolis Colts sidestepping the Rooney Rule to bring in Jeff Saturday as the interim coach. I don't know if the Rooney Rule applies to interim coaches, but it was a great chance to get for Jeff to get his legs under himself. So, in light of the controversy surrounding the Rooney Rule, I'm going to say that the Colts lost the game so that Jeff would get less attention.
That's a good one. Look at Ed. He's trying to figure that one out. Talk slower, Tiffany. He's a Democrat. Okay, you got to talk slower so he understands it.
That's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, what do you think about that,
So
Ed?
when
Is
he
that
won the
something
game, when they won the first week, there was way too much attention. You lose this week, people don't care.
Yeah, it's
They'll
like,
let you keep.
you know,
They'll let them keep us.
Throw to the goat, not the good kind of goat either.
If anybody's got anything to say about Ursay and trying to duck the Rooney Rule, maybe they should go talk to Tony Dungy. That would be my only suggestion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like, man, who sits around and thinks about that stuff? It's like, you know, it's something else. Some days that you wonder on things. So, you know what? I don't even have anything tonight. I know it's sad. I got my hat. Look at my hat. That's it. I can't even think of anything. So, Mr. Ogden, do you have any conspiracy you'd like to throw out there? Maybe I'll think of one while you're getting in trouble on the show.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of a conspiracy, but I am troubled by the Buffalo Bills moving the game. I would love to watch that game.
In 4 feet of snow.
They played in any kind of weather, and now they don't. I did. Yeah, that would have been a great game to watch. I just think it.
There probably would have been too many fans there.
In fairness to the Buffalo Bills, they were asked by the city because it would have taken away from services that they still had. I think 6 people that died, and so they asked them not to do that, so the city didn't have to allocate services to getting the game going.
People would have killed themselves trying to get there.
Yeah, 4 feet of snow will slow you down. I mean, that's
I'm with you.
The game on TV at home on my TV. Well, watching the game at home in my warm living room on my television, not the people who actually had to get to the game. So,
yeah, you were yelling at them. Well, and I was downtown. Sunday we served homeless.
Oh,
turkey
and
dinner.
and Joe Burrow.
Who?
I was going to mention my Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, what they do
with the great rally uniform.
Oh, really?
They pulled it out in the fourth quarter, amazingly.
Okay.
Yeah, they did really good. They pulled it out.
They
had a new uniform. It's white with black stripes.
So they're like a Bengal tiger. No, the Bengals. What's the white tiger? What's that one? Hidden tiger, something dragon. That's good. Okay, I think that's it. Are we winding this thing up? And hey, next week we could have a very interesting show. We have sort of a whistleblower that's going to talk about a certain something or other in Indianapolis that I'm in the middle of doing some research on. And look at that, he's already laughing about this one. But Lucy, you talk about getting people to watch. What Tiffany? She's great. You're done, aren't you? You're done with this show, Tiffany? You're done?
No, it was hurting my ear.
Oh, okay.
The voices were coming in and the voices were
week,
hurting my ear.
Yeah, next week we could have a little bit of controversy in the Marion County area. So I'm just going to leave you with that until we get until I get it nailed down. But that's what it's looking like. We're going to have that for our show next week. And this person's going to come on as a guest. And we've asked the other side to come on or to make a comment. And I'm just going to leave it at this. Is it going to be like the People's Court? It's going to be like the People's Court? No, well, you guys can ask questions and whatnot, and we'll see what that looks like. But the other party said, we don't want to come on and comment because there's a pending lawsuit. Da da da.
Should I wear a robe?
We may need a lawyer. Paul may have to come back into his practice, and him and Mark may have to team up to save us from going to the Hoos Cow like Seinfeld did on their last show. Yeah, so exactly. Hey, stay tuned for that. So anyway, that's just our teaser for next week. And if that doesn't happen, which I think it's going to happen, you'll want to tune in for this because it's high drama in Marion County, and we'll see how that goes. So, thanks, Mr. Ogden, for being a good sport tonight. We appreciated the conversation. I think I'm a little bit smarter about Marion County politics today, and hopefully I'm not smart enough to quit. But you never know. It might happen. So, all right, everybody, till next week. Thanks for tuning in. Never give up. Never give up. Yes. All right. Well, we're giving up this
Lions.
Yes. All right. I see you. Everybody out.